Hello everyone, this is Suresh from Azure ADB. Today our topic is how to use to_date function in PySpark. So first we'll see what is the function of this to_date. So this we'll use mainly to format, to change the format. Suppose if you have columns of records in this particular format. So either date string or timestamp string format. So then we can convert into date type column into specified format. So that means we need to mention the format in which format we need to change. So if your column is type of date string, or you can say string date, so then you can convert to date type format. Or suppose if you have timestamp string, then you can convert to date type format. Next, if the format is not provided, to_date takes the default value as 4wise mmdd. So normally, if you apply to_date function, by default, it gives in this format. So if you want other than this format, so you need to provide the required format. So this extracts only the date portion if timestamp is provided. Suppose if your input is timestamp string. So timestamp string means it consists of both date and time. So in those cases, to_date, it will extract only date from timestamp, and it ignores time part. So it returns null if the format does not match. So if you see syntax to_date, and you need to provide column and you need to mention the format. Suppose whatever the format you are passing here, if that is not matching with your date string, then it will return as nulls. So for all these scenarios, we'll see with examples. So next, to_date extracts only date part and it ignores time. And to_timestamp parses both date and time. So this is the main difference between to_date and to_timestamp functions. So it extracts only the date portion. Suppose if you have timestamp value, so it will extract only date. So to_timestamp, it give you both date and time. So now we'll see with some examples. So first I'll give you how high level overall view. So how to_date function we can apply for different scenarios. So suppose first my scenario is converting a string column with the default format. That means if your date strings follow the default format. So that means you assume that, say this is our date. Since it is given single quote, no, so you can consider this as date string. That means date in the form of a string. But if you see the format, see here 4wise, 2m's and dd. So if this date string, if it is following this format, that means to_date by default format is this one. If date string, it is already in this format, what you can do is you can simply apply to_date without specifying a format. See here, suppose you have one column and your all column values has like this in this format. So 4wise, 2m's and 2d's. So if this is the case, then in this your syntax to_date, only column is enough. No need to mention format. Next, converting string column with a custom format. So string column is this one, and if you want to convert into a custom format, so this is my date string, and if this date string, if it is having different format. So suppose this example, this format. So that you can consider as this one. See here, it is in the format of 2Ms, 2Ds and 4Ys. So if this is the case, this we can say that a custom format. So then what you need to do is you must specify the format to underscore date function. So here we'll see with some basic examples how this will work. So as I explained earlier, this is date string and it is in correct format, default format. So 4Ys, 2Ms, 2D. So suppose if you write the to underscore date function, so you mention only this one. So no need to mention the format. See here, this one, it is matching with default format. So the condition is it is matching. So then after applying to underscore date, what it gives is it gives you the date. So that means this date string, it is converted to date format, means date data type. Okay, so we're already in correct format. So this is same thing is this one. Next, we'll see the one more example. So this is a date string, but it is in different format. So dd, mm, 4Ys. If you apply to underscore date without mentioning format, see here, it not matching to our default format. See here, it is not matching because default is this one and here it is in different format. So what we'll get is null. Why? Because format is mismatch. So same thing it is mentioned here. So it returns null if the format does not match. So what is the correct format is? So you have to mention to underscore date and you have to mention date string and you have to mention the correct format. So how we have to mention it? So you have to look here. See this is 2D's date and this is month and this is year. So since the date is 2 digit, we are giving 2Ds and the month we had 2 digits and we are giving 2Ms and here we have 4 digits and we are giving 4Ys here. And if you take timestamp string, so in timestamp string we have date and we have time. So if I apply directly to underscore date on this timestamp, our default format is not matching, but still what to underscore date function does is, even though this date and time, it is not matching with the date format, but it looks into date. So here, if you consider only in date, it is in our default format. Okay, so what it does is, so it will extract only date. And what is the correct format is to underscore date. And you can mention this format here. Okay, so next we'll see one by one scenario with examples. So first scenario is converting a string column with default format. Suppose if your date strings follow the default format, so that means this format, so you can simply apply to underscore date without specifying a format. So here what I'm doing, I'm importing required functions, so mainly to underscore date and column. And I created one sample data set here. So how I created is all my data, it is in default format. So that is 4Ys, DD. See here, all my records are in default format. So first I'm creating data frame here. And on top of this, I'm using with column. And what I'm doing is to underscore date and call of this one, date underscore string. So we have only one column. So that column I'm passing here. And here I'm not passing any format because it is in our default format. So now see, if you observe here, our initial data frame. So that means after creating this one, create data frame, what we have is our all values are string. So that's why we're calling as a date string. See here, all headings are mentioning string, date string. So see here, and you can check here also. So this is string. So all our date values are in string data type. So after applying to underscore date, what happening? Check here. Data type is, so our initial data type, this is a string. Now it is changed to date. And you see here symbol difference date. Okay, so since it is in our default format, so same you are getting. Okay, so this is first scenario. Second scenario is converting a string column with a custom format. So that means if your date strings are in different format, that means other than default format. Suppose example in this format, then you must specify the format in the to underscore date function. Suppose if you have multiple columns with the dates in different formats, you can convert each one separately by applying to underscore date with the corresponding format. Suppose, so here I'm taking first example. So I created one data frame with custom format. So that means I have different columns, and each column, if you see, they're in their own different formats. So this we can call as this custom format. So by using total, I have 4 columns. By using create data frame, what I'm getting is these first 4 columns. And if you see these data types, so all are string. Okay, so that means, so this is string, date string, and this is a timestamp string. This is date string, and this is timestamp string. So on top of this, what I'm doing is, so on top of this data frame, I'm using with column, and I'm applying to underscore date function. So first I'm applying on column 1, this column, and here if you observe here, so this is not in our default format. See here it is in backslash, and the two it is in date, month, and year. Okay, so this kind of custom format, so we need to pass the correct format here. So this format, what is that is, so whatever our input record is there, so this format we need to define here. That means this record, it is in this format. So if you define this format, then to underscore date, what is gives is its own default format. What is its own default format? Year, month, date. And second thing is it will convert from string to date data type. See here, first I have month, then backslash. See here, month, backslash, date, and backslash year. Okay. So if I define this format, that means we need to tell that this date, it is in this format. So then it will convert to our default format. So next we'll see second column. So here I'm applying with column, and to underscore date, I'm applying on this particular column, second column, and I'm defining format here because it is not in default format. If you see here first date, backslash month, backslash year. So up to here, this one. And after that, if you see time, it has only 2 values. So that means hour and minute. So we don't have seconds and milliseconds. And that too, this hour, if you see all hours in single digit. So that's why I given single H here. And if you see minutes, it is 2 digit. So that's why I given mm. Okay. So then what it does is, if you see this output here, this is in timestamp format. So what it does is timestamp string. What it does is First, it will change the data type, string to date. First thing is, and second thing is timestamp. If you pass timestamp inside to underscore date, it will give you output as date format. Okay, so it will ignore this time. So same thing we discussed here. Uh, if you see this point, see here, so extracts only date portion and it removes time portion. So next we'll see one more column. If you see third column, see it is again different format. See here how it is there. So first is month, first is date, second is month, and last is year. But if you see date, all are in single digit. So that's why I given single D here. And but if you see here, instead of digits, it is represented in string format, February, FEB. So if you see all months, no, it is 3 characters. So that's why month I given 3 M's here. And but if you see here only 2 digits are there. So we don't have 4 digits. So that's why I given 2 Y's here. And in between dash. Okay, so same format I mentioned here. So now what is going to happen is, so first it will convert to date format, string to date format. Then you see here 2023, it will change to 2023, and February it will change to 02, and 6 it will change to 06. And if you see here, 22 will become 2022, and March become 03, and 1 become 01. And similar way here, 24 become 2024, and April is 04, and 9 become 09, and so on. And if you see other column, see this is the timestamp string. If you see here, first date is there, then we have time. And if you see here in this date, no, it is in default format like year, month, date. And so that's why here format is not passed here. And one more thing, if you see time, hour, minute, second, millisecond. But if you pass this timestamp value inside to underscore date, what it does is it will extract only date and it will ignore time. It will ignore time. If you see this output, see here 2021 724, 2021 724. So it ignores time. 2019 722. And if you see here 2023 925. And here 2024 412. Okay, so this how custom function will work. Next, we'll see one more example. So here I created a data frame. So almost all similar custom functions. So one thing I newly created like this. So if you see this column, we have some string here and we have nuns here and we have mixed date also is there. So now we'll see how to handle this kind of scenario. See here, if you see data types, all are strings. So now what I'm doing is on top of these columns, if you see first column to underscore date, and this is in default format. That means this column, see here, it is in default format. So that's why here format is not provided. And what it does is, see this string become date. And this date, this value will get as it is 2025 326. Okay, so column names are given d1 here, d1 underscore custom. Next, second column, if you see second column, so it is in different format. It is in not default format. If you see here date, month, year. So here I will define in same format dd, four wise. So if I mention like this, so this string become date, it will convert as date type and we'll get in proper format, our default format 2025 03 26. And similar way if you see here 2023 7 15. Okay, so next, so this also we saw already. So how we can define is single D because single digit is there. So single D and four M's because Feb is there and two Y's. So this become this D4 string type becomes date type and 6 February 23 will convert to 2023 to 6. And next we'll come to this one. So this is our new type. So for D5, if you see here, I given if condition. So what I given is when column of D5, that means this column is not null. So that means not null means other than nulls. So first condition is not null and call of D5 is not equal to invalid. So one is non-null. So non-null means so this null will ignore. Okay, not null. And sorry, not null means this. It will consider this and this except nulls. Next, and one more condition is given not equal to invalid. So that means it will consider only these values. So for those values, it will apply to underscore date. And if you see here, it is already in default format, but still I given here. So 4 wise MMDD. So based on this condition, first if condition, what it does is these three values, it will convert. If you see here, this one D5 underscore custom. So this it will convert to date format. And if you see here, string it converted to date. And whatever remaining is there. So otherwise means remaining records. So remaining records means what is there? Invalid and nulls. So this will become nulls. Okay, and a similar way this column also. So this is in DD, YY. So 4 Ys. So since I passed this format on D6 column, and you will get in proper format. So this will become 2019 36. 2019 36. Okay, and it converted to date type. So next we'll see one more example. So this also these two are common. So this we have additional is milliseconds is here. So here first I'm creating this data frame, and if you see here all are string type. So on top of this, what I'm doing is, if you see here first column, so this is not in default format. So we have to define this format. So date backslash month, see here date backslash month and 4 Ys, and if you see here single H and minutes mm. And for this column, same format, only difference is only H will come. Okay, so we have only hour only. And if you see here, we have hour, minute, second. So here it is given hour, minute, second for this column. And here milliseconds is added. So milliseconds. And why here format is not provided is, if you see this timestamp value in this date value, it is in default format. That is 4 Ys MMDD. So that's why format is not provided here since it is a default format. But if you see, since this is a timestamp, so we'll get only date value. If you see here T4 underscore custom, so we'll get only date 2021 7/24. So it will ignore time, and this string will convert to date type. And see here, after converting all custom columns, it changed from string to date. So next we'll see how to use to underscore date function with select expression. So to convert date time string to date and ignoring the time part. So for this, what I did, I created two columns here. One is timestamp and second is date. So first I'm creating a data frame. And if you see here, our data frame, it is in string format. So both columns are in string format. So now what I'm doing on top of this data frame, instead of with column, I'm using select expression. So inside select expression, what I'm doing is I'm writing to underscore date function on which column? Date time underscore string. So that is first column. And since it is in since this date is in default format, so here we are not passed any format here. So directly it is mentioned as date. And what is does is it will extract only the date from the timestamp. And if you see here, this first one, so I given alias as date. So this date, it will provide you all date values. So it will ignore time here. If you see here, in out of this, we are getting only date 2021 12/1, 2021 12/1. Next, out of this, we are getting 2022 1/15, 2022 1/15. And the second condition, what I'm doing, to underscore date on same column, and I'm passing the format here. So even though this is a default format, still I'm passing here format as date underscore time. So even though if you mention the format, it will extract only the date from the timestamp. So here you will get same output as dates. And if you see here, these are all converted from string to date data types. And third one, what I given is to underscore date on input underscore date on this particular column. So this already in our default format. So I'm not mentioned here format. So to underscore date and as input underscore date. That is this one. What it does is recognized as date type. So because already it is in date string, what it does is will get same values. So only thing is it will convert to string to date type. Next, we'll see how to write code in Spark SQL. So first we'll see how to write in SQL. So first one is how to convert string to date with a default format. So select, so same thing to underscore date, and inside that we need to provide the date. So here I'm providing default format YYMMDD as this column name. See here we are getting date. So we are getting same date, and this is that string converted to date type. Next, how to convert string with custom function. So if the date is in different format, so you can specify the format using to underscore date. See here, this is not in standard format. So then to underscore date function, we need to define the format. So date dd month, and year. See here, after defining the format, it we are getting in date data type and it giving you in correct format. Means default format 2025 329. And now we'll see how to write in Spark SQL. So Spark SQL, what we have to write is this code as it is. What we need to do is this whole code we need to put inside spark.sql. So spark.sql, inside that with the double quotes, you need to write same code here. Whatever you written in SQL, so same thing we need to write it here. So on top of that, you can use show or display. So then it will show you this one. Okay, so next we'll see how to convert timestamp to date. So to underscore date function, and inside that I'm passing timestamp value. And if you see this date is in default format, so I'm not passed any format here. And if you see here, we are getting in date data type and it giving you date 2025 329. And next, this same thing, this whole thing you keep inside spark.sql. See here spark.sql and inside with the double quotes, you need to write same thing here. And if you either write show or display, it will give you the output. Okay, so if you want to understand more about this, current underscore timestamp function. So if you see here, it is hard-coded value. Okay, so in Spark SQL, so what I written is instead of hard-coded value, I given function here, current underscore timestamp. So what is this current underscore timestamp? So this function returns the current timestamp. So that is including date and time. So for example, this one timestamp format. So initially it is in date format, then time. So hour, minute, second, milliseconds. And on top of this, we are applying to underscore date of current timestamp. What it does is to underscore date function extracts only the date part from the timestamp, as we already aware. So it removes the time portion and returns only the date in this default format. So that is this one. Okay, so this is the explanation of this code. So next we'll see one more example. Here what we are doing is, here also same things for .sql select date to underscore timestamp. Okay, so same thing we are writing here. So instead of current timestamp, what we are writing is we are writing hard-coded value, but what we are doing is first we are applying to underscore timestamp, then to underscore date. So to underscore timestamp, what it does is it will convert timestamp string to date type. Okay, so see, you can see the explanation here. So first to underscore timestamp, what it does. So first to underscore timestamp of this timestamp value, what it does is, so this function converts the input string. So this string timestamp value, it convert into a timestamp value. So that means to underscore timestamp, it simply convert the data type from string timestamp to timestamp. String timestamp data type to timestamp data type. Next, on top of that, we are applying date function. So that in date function, what it does is it extracts only the date portion from the timestamp value. Okay, so we'll get output as only this one. Next, Inside Spark.sql, so here we are applying only date. We are applying only date function on this string timestamp. So we'll see how it works. See, initially we have value as string input. So that means string timestamp. So the input is a timestamp and it is in string format and it is in this particular format, date and time. And on top of this, we are applying date. So what this date function does is it converts the timestamp string into date type by extracting only the date portion. So that means this string timestamp value, it will convert to timestamp data type, then it will extract only date value. Okay, so this time part is discarded. And for same thing, equivalent is you can write here also like this also. Cast this timestamp as date. So alternate for this one is this one. And if you see here, this code you can write either of the way. So spark.sql select to_date and timestamp value, or otherwise cast this timestamp value as date. Okay, so either way you can write it. So here what I'm doing, spark.sql to_date timestamp value. See here our input is this one, string timestamp. See this one, string timestamp. So this timestamp string, it is in default format. So here, year, month, date. So on top of that, we are applying to_date on timestamp function. So what it does is it extracts only the date portion. So time portion it is discarded, and this timestamp string it will convert to date type. So next is to_date. So we have timestamp string. So earlier we are not defined the format because already it is in default format. So but here we have in different format. See here month, date, year. So here we need to define the format here. So either you can use it to_date or you can use cast here. So same thing. So first we are applying to_date on this custom timestamp. And you can see how it works. This is timestamp string. The date and time are provided in a custom format. So this format. Okay, so what it does represents is this one. Meaning is this one. And this time portion will be ignored. So if you apply to_date on this and you mention this format, so what it does is first argument is timestamp string. Second argument is the format. So we define the format. Next, what it does is the function passes the string according to the provided format. So that means this format. And it will extract only the date part and it will ignore time part. And finally, what we'll get is date type and in this format. Next, use to_date on a column. Suppose if you have a table with a string column containing dates. So here what I'm doing, here I'm creating some table here by using SQL script. So here this is my table. First two are my initial table. So in this order_date, so it has string date string type. So it is in string format. So here what I'm doing, I'm applying to_date on this column order_date. Since it is not in default format, I'm mentioning the format. So date, month, year. So date, month, year. Then what it does is it converted to date data type and it converted to our default format. Okay, so Now we saw how to use to underscore date function in SQL and Spark SQL as well as in PySpark. So if you really like this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you.